Hey everybody, welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm your very, very happy boy, Abram Buhner, and I'm joined by my equally happy co-host, Tucker Hazeln. We're here today to talk about the new Nintendo Direct that just happened. But before we do, if you want to talk to us about the Direct, if you want to talk to us about your life, if you want to talk to us about your problems,
Yeah.
join our Discord.
There's
Link is
actually
usual
a
top of the
surprisingly
description.
large amount of that for a Discord here in our Discord. Hey, but
Yeah.
I like that. It's part of our charm.
We're a big family.
We're therapy.
Hey, you know what people say? You gotta be careful of parasocial relationships. We cut out the middleman. It's not even parasocial. It's just social.
Yeah.
I'll tell you anything you want to know about my life.
Yeah, no, we don't hide anything here.
Like the video, ring the bell, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, goose the algorithm, give us views,
Comment,
give
you
us
goddamn
traction,
bastards. Come on.
make us famous.
Yes.
But Tucker, that's out of the way. I want to get right down to business, but I don't want to get into the nitty gritty yet. I just want to get first your high level thoughts after this Nintendo Direct. And what I want you to do is just talk to me from any perspective you want, but a couple things that are kind of percolating in my mind is not necessarily just how the showcase itself is and how the games look, but also sort of where this is putting us for the remainder of 2023. So take this open prompt however you will, but how you feeling right now, today, 5:38 Eastern Standard Time?
Yeah, they did exactly what they needed to here. And frankly, I would say even a little more. Part of why the beginning of this year felt a little cumbersome to me and was a little frustrating from the Nintendo side is that they so heavily front-loaded their year that the question was, is the next Direct going to be able to handle filling out the rest of the year / looking towards the future? And actually, this really was. And there aren't many Directs that you can say that do as well as this one did. And it's such a complete 180 from what that last Direct was that I think the two kind of balance each other out in a really weird way. And by the end of the year, we could be looking back, if the games really hit and are great, one of another great years for the Switch. And I think what this Direct really does for me is solidify the end of the Switch, but in a really good way. This is not end of 3DS era. We're piddling on a bunch of horse shit and no one cares. We are ending on a strong, confident note, but we can feel the gears sort of turning. These are sort of the last dregs where we're drifting towards the next piece of hardware that's going to bring in all the big software that we're getting right now, but we might not be getting as the year ticks over. But I think it's a very good thing, and the Switch is in a great place for this year.
Yeah, the first thing I want to just say is, I told you so. And I'm not just talking to you, but I am partially talking to you. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to Botox Media for sure. Well, Botox Games now, Media at the time. This is how long I've been right for. I'm talking to the Discord server. I'm talking to Twitter. You motherfuckers said Nintendo had nothing for the rest of 2023. You got VGC. You got every Tom, Dick, and Harry coming out of the woodwork. Oh, Nintendo's got a week 22 second half of 2023. Oh, they got no games for 2023. Oh, that's what anything I Pikmin 4. Your boy was right the whole time.
But there's going to be a lot of games shown at all these fucking things they're doing. They're showing up in, like, I believe every town, city, and village on the continent.
Yes, well, especially if they're making an emphasis to see all the villages. But I don't want to just gloat because I want to really get into what was here, because to me, this was an amazing showcase.
Yeah,
it centralized what I love about Nintendo, which is whimsy and joy and creativity and the celebration of legacy.
Sure.
I think that everything Nintendo does at their best was exhibited today.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I do have a couple issues. There were a couple, I think, pretty obvious omissions from the showcase. I also think that there were some games that don't look that good.
Yeah.
And I actually feel like the release calendar might be a little unbalanced.
Interesting. Let's talk about that, definitely.
But everything that was shown here that looks good looked exceptional, and I'm genuinely happier right now as a Nintendo fan than I have been in a very long time.
I mean, what are we gonna say? You're right. I mean, goddamn, this was a great Direct. Again, as I said, a 180 from what I was frustrated for before, but I think that this year is now balanced in a very interesting way. I want to talk about the holes and the sort of mild imbalance that comes in parts. But what this Direct was able to show is a pretty solid variety of games coming for the rest of the year, and some surprises that hadn't been leaked, and also a lot of things that were leaked, which I think is very interesting about this Direct. almost everything that was shown was rumored in some way very recently.
Yeah, this Pyoro character has suddenly become maybe the most reputable leaker
Yeah.
in the space because they not only
What's
said
what's
2D
the term
Mario.
for like you're the number one most wanted man in the country?
I don't know.
There's some funny thing, but he's that. All right,
But there's
whatever
a
it is.
list, and there's a list, and they're on it and at the top of it.
Yes.
But they got not only 2D Mario being there, but they got the name of the game.
Yes.
They got Metal Gear Solid. They got Detective Pikachu.
Yep.
They got everything they talked about was shown. It makes me wonder if they're even like a Nintendo employee who
Sure.
saw the
Yeah.
event. But I don't. It's for me now that really here nor there.
Yeah.
Stuff leaks all the time. But I want to just as we're framing this conversation, I just want to read out the list of games Nintendo now has
Sure.
for 2023.
Perfect. Okay.
And this is going to go back to the beginning of the year, and it's going to carry us down through the end. So this year, Nintendo's 2023 is Fire Emblem Engage, Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, Metroid Prime Remastered, Bayonetta Origins, Advanced Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Everybody 1-2 Switch, Pikmin 1+2 HD, Pikmin 4, Super Mario Wonder, Detective Pikachu Returns, Super Mario RPG, and WarioWare Move It.
Yeah.
On top of course, major DLC expansions for Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Mm-hmm.
Major DLC expansions for Fire. Is that true?
We already got Fire Emblem Engage DLC, didn't we?
Sure. But a lot of games get like things. But that was Xenoblade got a major standalone expansion.
And Pokemon and Splatoon. And more Mario
Pokemon.
Kart.
Yeah. Splatoon's a little bit up in the air if it's actually going to release this year. Because there was like a change to the eShop page that, hey, this is coming through maybe March 2024. And people were like, oh, it's just a placeholder date. But we didn't see it today. It's still possible that like Xenoblade, they just drop a trailer in the middle of the night and it's out the next day. But the point is, what looked like it could have been a somewhat light year ended up being a very busy year.
Absolutely.
And for my taste, definitely one of the Switch's best. Now, obviously, we got to see how these games shake out. But I don't have much doubt that any of these are going to be bad, other than a couple that I want to talk about in particular. However, to your point about variety, it's interesting because, and I think Beat 'em Ups was saying this. Wood Hawker, he's like, this is a great Nintendo Direct if you're a Mario fan.
Yes.
That's no doubt true. Now, there's also a lot of uneducated fools who pretend that WarioWare is Mario because Wario's in Mario games. That's wrong and you're dumb.
Well,
but that's a point to me at another time.
I think they're right. Frankly, I think that Mario adjacent things were so dominant and weirdly so in this Direct that even if you're like, okay, WarioWare by technicality is not the thought still remains, and that's like even hanging on by a thread. It's still hanging on.
It's really a tangential point I like to litigate because people try to say that Donkey Kong is like Mario.
I would agree.
Like Donkey Kong is. We'll talk about this separately then. Because Donkey Kong is definitely not true. We'll talk about this separately. This is actually a fascinating conversation to have maybe about the etymology of a franchise. There's a title for us right there. But I think that when you put the Mario and Mario friends, we'll use a diplomatic term there, Mario and Mario's friends, when all of those
MCU.
MGU, Mario
Gaming Universe, yeah.
But when you put those into conversation with everything else releasing this year, it's not actually so Mario heavy, and it is so varied, not only in terms of franchise, but in terms of genre.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to your point, there was some definite sort of late 3DS era filler here. I mean, one of the things was literally a 3DS game in the Dark Moon remaster coming. But for the most part, this doesn't feel like a late generation year to me. We have a major Zelda. We have a major Mario game. Now, obviously, Zelda tends to coincide with the end of a system's launch. But if you just look at the caliber of games here, this isn't coasting.
Yes.
This is now significant, and it makes me very excited.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of where I was coming out the other end, really pleased with how this year has shaped up. We will be able to look back for the rest of time as the Nintendo nerds we are, thinking about the life cycle of systems and what games released when and how that sort of spurred on different kinds of momentum. That's something I love to obsess over. And we can say, hold on, the Switch coasted out its life cycle with a goddamn bang. The fastest selling and maybe highest selling Zelda game, that is yet to be confirmed, but it's more likely than not.
It's probably going to happen.
Pikmin 4, Bayonetta 3, multiple generations of Pokemon, a new 2D Mario for the first time in decades, basically. That's crazy. I mean, very few systems can say that, especially this late in their life.
let's also just be clear that there is no announcement of hardware.
No.
And I do actually tend to side with Josh Thomas a little bit on this point. On this point only, I side with Josh Thomas. Clear, who said, "Yeah, maybe the Switch 2 is Switch." I also don't like saying Switch 2 because now it's going to call, but it's colloquially what we use. Yeah. Maybe it's not coming until like 2025 now, and I tend to agree. I don't necessarily see this as like, and now we're out.
Yeah,
goodbye. Yeah. I think, although maybe to the other side of the coin a little bit, I do think that the verbiage of, and here is the Peach game, and here is Luigi's Mansion, the game's coming in 2024, to me was almost a little bit of an affirmation that, like, yes, Switch is still going to get more software. Maybe because new hardware is going to get announced like this fall for early next year. I don't know. But I don't look at this lineup of games I just gave you and said, yeah, we're really hurting for a new
absolutely not.
New set of kit here.
Because it just felt so good to see all these things. And I think the variety on the gameplay level is where I want to get into, because a lot of directs in the past have been criticized, and a lot of presentations, frankly, across the industry have been criticized for having multiple kinds of games back to back, or at least close enough to one another where they start to run together, and the gameplay and the teams you never heard of, and things are starting to mesh. And that has happened in Nintendo Directs, namely with the square sections in multiple directs, where it's like, Jesus Christ, they're really making this many games? Or Notorious Farming Direct, or you think about how many first-person shooters or third-person action games might happen in something like a Summer Game Fest show or an Xbox showcase. This Direct, I think, subverted that. While it had a lot of Mario tangential stuff, MCU stuff, the variety in gameplay here, I think, is very strong. You get RPG, minigame collection, 2D platformer, and then whatever the fuck that Peach game is. We need to get into that, but lots of variety on the gameplay department, and also whatever you categorize Detective Pikachu as, adventure game, like in the classic style. I don't know.
Yeah, there's one other high-level comment I want to make before we get into the particulars here.
I want to get into your particulars.
Tucker, I know you do. My friend Zian from Nintendo Life made a comment that I really enjoyed.
Friend.
Colleague, associate. He said on Twitter, and I really agree with this idea, that this was the Nintendo we've been missing. And the screenshot he used was of Koizumi dancing around with the Joy-Con after WarioWare Move It.
Yeah.
I think this is really important. Now, we've gone back and forth in many conversations about whether or not the sort of quote-unquote feel of Nintendo is different.
Yeah.
I won't relitigate that point from an objective level, but I'll say that for me it definitely has.
Sure.
And what I saw today felt like a return to that in part.
Yeah.
And to me that's really important, when I can sort of feel like the spirit of Iwata, coursing through the company and how they present information now a little bit more. Just kind of the fun that we're having, and the fact that we are getting titles that are risky and joyous.
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers Wonder, which we'll talk about in, I'm sure, great detail very soon, is a risky play for the series. It looks super strange, and it looks complicated, and looks busy, and it looks like there's a lot going on there. But as I feel like I shouldn't cite him too many times in the video, I'll get canceled. As Josh Thomas said, it looks like it was just a lot of developers coming together and having fun.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
throwing out ideas.
Yeah.
And I think that's a spirit that we saw today that I don't always feel from modern Nintendo.
Yeah.
So I was really pleased by the marquee titles shown here and the feeling that each gave me.
Yeah. Well, I think we should start where this Direct started, from a first-party standpoint, exclusive standpoint, which is we got a totally serviceable but not particularly remarkable Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC trailer. It's exactly what you expect it's going to be. It doesn't really give you any real new information, just kind of shows you areas, and that Pokemon are going to be in those areas, and characters will be in those areas. And I will not play this. And it leaves my mind immediately. I think it was a weak way to open this show, and frankly, I think that extends to some of the other earlier things that they had in this Direct. But it makes sense. Like, okay, yeah, of course they're going to have that. This is one of their highest selling games of all time. This DLC will presumably do very well for them. It's probably a very big deal for a lot of people. Opening it up on that is, like, objectively a, like, big thing to open your Direct with. But it also is pretty strange, because this is the first time we've gotten Pokemon information like this revealed in a Nintendo Direct almost ever, especially not in this generation. I mean, usually they'll
Sure.
recap things that happened in recent Pokemon Presents. They're like, hey, Pokemon DX is coming, and Mew is
Yeah.
inside the Pokeball Plus. Ding! But Pokemon information here, both from this DLC and then, of course, Detective Pikachu Returns, having it meshed into a Nintendo Direct is actually kind of cool when you think about it, because usually it's so separate. And we're talking about how...
It's surrounded by garbage.
Yes. At least we didn't see Master ZX
Who's
and
coming to
Cafe.
Master ZX? Holy shit.
But having the good parts of a Pokemon Presents, the important parts of a Pokemon Presents, be put into a Direct that otherwise would have been all Mario titles is actually a very big deal. And it kind of balances out in an interesting way, even if I wasn't like glowing at the opening.
Yeah, I mean, the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have sold north of 25 million copies. It's outrageous. People are very excited for this news. I just don't think I like Pokemon that much anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's just where I'm at. So I have nothing to say about it. It looks, I think some of the ideas look cool. Like, I like the idea of being this like artificially constructed natural environment. I think that's an interesting idea. But I do like Monkey Dory. If there's one thing about Pokemon that I still like, it's Monkey Dory. But let's just talk about Detective Pikachu Returns also. I don't think it looks good. No. But also, like, I'm not really sure what we expected, because this game has clearly been gone through hell.
Yeah, of course.
And I wouldn't suspect that, especially given that this movie sequel's not happening in various, I don't think that game sold especially well.
Yeah.
I didn't really see this as being a high resource project, but I think it's also just another example of how the Pokemon company is just not putting money where money should be put and releasing a game that could have been more interesting, but is instead just kind of coasting on IP. Yeah. And it looks like to me it's just coasting on IP, and that's fine for the people who are excited, but it doesn't do anything for me. I will, as I said to you all, probably buy it because I feel FOMO, but probably not play it.
Yeah.
Because I just don't.
I think this is simultaneously one of the more interesting things revealed here, because I thought this game was gone. I thought this game was dead.
Everybody thought the game was gone.
They mentioned one sentence that this game was potentially real, or that it was being worked on, and then they canceled the movie sequel, and then it drifted off into the wind, and not a word of it for almost the Switch's entire life cycle at this point. Right. Multiple generations of Pokemon have released between this game being half-ass one sentence announced and having an actual trailer. And from that degree, it's very fascinating that this game is actually coming out. And it also could be something very different, because I am currently playing through Detective Pikachu, and it does not feel like a Nintendo game. It is very different structurally. It's very different production value-wise. It's a story-focused game, which doesn't usually come out of Nintendo. And so having this in a otherwise very gameplay-focused year is actually something kind of different. But it also looks awful. I mean, I thought this might have been a port of the 3DS game, but it actually looks worse than 3DS game. The 3DS game, Detective Pikachu, is actually one of the most impressive games on that hardware. It has motion capture and like genuine animation and a really nice soft color palette, but they kind of took the like harsh lighting engine of like Scarlet and Violet, and they removed the sort of texture work that the 3DS game had, and now that it's on an HD system, you can kind of see where the budget has been cut in terms of background texture work and stuff. And I think it looks bad. I think I'm interested in playing it because it's such a curiosity, and it could be good. Totally might be. But this trailer did not sell this as an important game. Nintendo did not put forth their best effort here with working alongside Creatures and Pokemon Company and everything. Like, this is going to be a big thing. This is what Pokemon has in 2022. They kind of they showed us what Pokemon has in 2022, or 2023 rather, which is DLC, and then they're like, oh, also this, it's coming out.
I don't know if that's true though, because it got a pretty lengthy trailer.
Yeah, it did. I just don't think we didn't see gameplay at all though. We didn't see what the environments you're going to be walking around in are going to be like, what really the story of the game. It was just kind of a vibes-based trailer of Pokemon are in Rhyme City, and Detective Pikachu likes coffee, and coming out in October.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that if you're going to, what was that, probably 2-minute trailer? 2.5-minute trailer in engine, showing us the narrative, showing us the world, for a game that we thought was basically dead is I mean, if they did that same thing for Metroid Prime, I mean, it would look better, but it would also be, people would be super happy about that.
Yeah.
I think that the showing was totally fine. I just don't think the game is that interesting, frankly. Let's talk next about let's talk about Pikmin. I think we should just escalate to Mario.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because there's so much of it, and I think putting them in conversation probably makes most sense. I think Pikmin 4 continues to look delightful.
I think it continues to look better and better every time we see it.
Yeah, what they did today was sort of further complicate things, but I don't mean complicate in terms of making them confusing or making it unnecessarily cumbersome, but just adding little complications to the gameplay loop.
Yeah.
What does it mean to do a night exploration? Well, it means that enemies are going to be more tricky, but it also means that there's a new opportunity for a new Pikmin type in the, what do they call them, the Ghoul Pikmin? Glow Pikmin.
Yeah.
Glow Pikmin. Having these interior house locations, showing us a new multiplayer mode finally.
Yeah.
Showing us just a little bit more gameplay in the world.
Yeah.
A better look at caves.
Yeah.
I think it was a brilliant trailer, and I think this is going to be an exceptional game.
I really absolutely agree. And I think that with the progression of the trailers that this game has had being shown in the last Direct and getting like its full gameplay reveal and us learning about Oatchi and that we're going to have Ice Pikmin and that it's going to be all these characters and the environments and stuff. And I'm like, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is like, they're really building on top of it. But I think this trailer actually tipped that bar even farther. Because there's even elements that you didn't mention that I think will very acutely impact the gameplay and game loop of this game, which is that there are upgrades. And there are multiple characters that build a base camp, and you upgrade Oatchi, and you spend the treasure points that you get from collecting things in the environment to get faster boots and whatever the hell else is on that list. And that, for me, is a gigantic plus, because I love Pikmin, but the games are structurally incredibly basic, and I think that level of RPG mechanic, progression, a little bit, a little more grit to sort of dig your teeth into is like, okay, I want to do this for this reason so I can get this upgrade. Those sort of gameplay loops added on top of relatively simplistic structure is very important to me. And it's not like I'm gonna be like, oh, okay, the other games were worse because they didn't have it, but I think this game will be better because it does. And it does feel like an evolution of the series in a way that they never tried to do any of these things in the previous Pikmin games. They have been relatively samey, and now having lots and lots and lots of different things makes this really feel like, the next-gen Pikmin game that we waited over a fucking decade for. They really put a lot of thought into what else can we add? How else can we complicate this? I think that was a great word. And multiple kinds of Pikmin, night exploration, interior houses, which for Pikmin fans is a very big deal. Battling Olimar Pikmin guy with his alternate Oatchi. Like, there's so many little things here that, as someone who loves the Pikmin franchise, are like, wow, that's new. That's new. That's new. Oh my God, I can't believe they're trying this or doing this, because it feels so fresh.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I mean, I don't usually like subsystems in games. I think they usually dilute the message and the mechanical purpose of games. But I think that in the context of Pikmin 4, it makes perfect sense. And we're seeing a game that appears much larger in scope.
Absolutely.
And seemingly does a better job of selling how small Pikmin themselves actually are. And so through that lens, giving upgrades to traverse this world in a more efficient way, giving the treasure a little bit more of a meaning beyond just progression towards the end of the game. I think it all makes sense. Every idea being introduced makes sense for Pikmin.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's brilliant about it.
Definitely.
I also have to shout out Pikmin 1 and 2, which I now have on my Switch.
Are they both downloaded for you?
Yes.
Good.
Both downloaded.
Good boy.
I'm very excited. I'm very excited to, once I finish Tears of the Kingdom, hopefully, I think I'm just going to finish it tonight. Start Pikmin 1 again.
Sure.
Because the game's very short.
Yeah.
So
someone already beat it, apparently.
It'll be a pleasure to play back through these games. And as various people on Twitter have said, and I agree with completely, it's so wonderful that new fans can now play 1, 2, 3, and then play 4.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the way to go.
Yeah, and in sort of up-res, with the elements of motion controls that were introduced in the new Play Control version, I think that this is phenomenal. And I think it's a huge surprise because this was not leaked at all. This was one of the things that just was like totally...
That's not true. Pyara posted this also.
Oh, really? That these games are coming? Yeah. I did not see that. Never mind.
Yeah.
How about this? It wasn't leaked for me, so it was a surprise for me. But I think that also this is very interesting because this is one of the first times they've just ported games. Like, these are not Pikmin 1 fucking Redux. This isn't a release that is attempting to build upon what came before, which almost every port previously has. Of course, there are exceptions, and most of those are Wii U ports that are just more wholesale lifted. But this is a pair of GameCube games with the Wii element pointer controls put onto the Switch and up-resed to high resolution, which they've never been in before. Well, actually, no, I guess they might have been on their Wii U versions.
Yeah, it's still not true. They still have
okay.
there.
Well, regardless, this is interesting for a lot of reasons. Very cool for game preservation, for this franchise being the most successful it ever could possibly be. And goddamn, it's amazing all around.
It's the right way to go, and it reinforces an idea that I was speaking about in terms of Metroid Prime Remastered of Nintendo not being precious about games like this.
Yeah.
Because these games are precious to us, but when they're precious to Nintendo, they set up these expectations of pricing and marketing that I just think aren't commensurate with reality.
Yeah.
But them saying, hey, you guys love Pikmin. There's a lot of new fans here. We want them to love Pikmin the way you do. We're just going to put these games out, and we're going to upscale them. We're going to do what's necessary, but nothing more.
Yeah.
We're going to charge fair prices and just drop them today.
Yeah.
That is, in my opinion, an amazing sign for more of this in the future. That's what I've been saying since 2020 of Nintendo built a GameCube emulator for themselves for Sunshine, and I do think that this just opens the door even farther for F-Zero GX that people are saying, and Thousand Year Door people are saying.
Yeah.
So, I think that this is just a wonderful sign, and I'm just pleased that two amazingly designed and exciting games are on Switch.
So cool.
Let's just recount a couple of third-party things I just want to mention very briefly. Very excited for Metal Gear Solid Collection to be on Switch. I think that's definitely the way I'm going to try those. Yep. I'm also
hold on. They're also available to buy separately, which I think is actually very interesting and very important for these seminal games that you might not want to spend the full $60 on a full collection. I just want to play Metal Gear Solid 3 on my goddamn Switch. Okay, just go buy the game. And it's getting a physical release, which is very cool. And we didn't mention, but Pikmin 1 and 2 are also getting a bundled together physical release coming in September, which is cool. If I get those games, I will get them on that physical cartridge. I think that's a pretty cool idea to re-release those two games together in as weird versions as they are on that.
Yeah, and the other one that I'm just super excited about is Vampire Survivors. I'm a big fan of Vampire Survivors. I played a lot on Xbox. But that's not the form factor I want to play that game on. Yeah. So it's a little under a month away. So it's like 3 weeks until they launch it on Switch. I'll be there I thought it was day one.
August 17th. Yeah, so that's well over a month away. Almost.
Is that true?
Yeah.
A little under a month.
No.
Not that. 4.
No, because in 1 month.
August. Oh shit! Sorry.
Yeah, it's almost 2 months.
Yeah, my head was somewhere else.
It's okay. It's okay. But yeah, that's absolutely another one of the
it's very exciting.
Cool announcements of this. It's perfect form factor. Of course, this game is everywhere. Everyone loves it. But now it's found its home. I mean, this is the perfect place for that game. And then finally, I think, of course, the one that grabbed you and me the most.
I don't remember.
Penny's fucking knockback adventure or whatever the hell.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes. I don't want to get this name wrong. Hold on.
Yeah, I called it something entirely wrong. So
Penny's Big Breakaway.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I actually wasn't far off.
No, you weren't far off
intellectually. God damn, this game looks cool. And I don't know if we really knew what Christian Whitehead was working on post Sonic Mania. If we knew there was going to be a 3D game like this, but as soon as we see this aesthetic and we hear the phrase from the team that brought you Sonic Mania, and you realize new IP in a genre that has been flagging lately from really creative people, drawing in disparate inspirations from, as you mentioned, Saturn gameplay and Sonic aesthetic and the design philosophy of a team that really nailed that classic feel. This is going to be so distinct. It looks so smooth. It looks like it's got plenty of its own ideas. And that's just, boom. Day one, I will be playing through it. I cannot fucking wait.
I can't wait either. I mean, Christian Whitehead's an incredibly talented developer. And so we knew that he was forming a new studio, and we knew that they were making a 3D action platforming game.
Okay.
We didn't know anything beyond that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think we also knew that they were working in Private Division, but that's a fairly minor detail from a player's perspective.
Yes.
So finally seeing it and seeing that Christian and his team are going back to what they know best, which is Sega, but also moving that forward is very, very exciting. So I agree with you. I think this game looked terrific.
Yeah. And you got penguins and a yo-yo. What else could you want?
Yes. It's got funny guys. It's got good gameplay ideas. It comes from a great dev. It's going to be exceptional.
Yeah.
But now, Tucker, let's talk Mario and get the hell out of here.
Takamario. Well, we didn't get Takamario.
We did not.
No.
Let's start with the one of the least significance and work our way up.
Sure.
Luigi's Mansion.
Oh. Oh, I
Luigi's
forgot about
Mansion
that.
Dark Moon
Yeah.
is coming into Switch in 2024. I think that this is a totally fine idea.
Yeah.
I, what people need to remember is that Luigi's Mansion 1 came to 3DS because Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon engine was
Yes.
there. Luigi's Mansion 2 is coming to Switch because Luigi's Mansion 3 engine is there.
Yeah. What that means for Luigi's Mansion 1 on Switch, I do not know. But we also have the confluence of Luigi's Mansion engine and GameCube emulator on one system. What the fuck are they going to do with that? Actually, probably nothing. Like, I would be surprised, frankly, if that game came. But it would make it would be a good idea if that game came over. But this is a bizarre one. I think this might be the strangest announcement of the show because it's not something that anyone was clamoring for. What's interesting about a lot of the ports of games across all of history that have been brought to Switch is they're usually the top of their genre, top of their series. They're here because people have been clamoring for them. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon is the dark horse. It's the Dark Moon of that series, and seeing it brought forward, given another shot, is very interesting. And it could be a very good thing if they do touch up this game in different ways and make it fit that form factor a little bit better. Of course, it has to be redesigned to only be a single screen experience. So what that means in terms of menus and whatever the hell goes on the bottom screen of Dark Moon, I actually don't know. But bizarre and maybe pretty compelling, but we'll have to see what the extent of this is, because really all they said was Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon is coming to Switch looking a little bit better. And from what I saw, that's true. But it could be more. It could be just that. It's just hard to tell because much like the other game that they announced within the 45-second time limit, this game was only kind of half announced. And I find that very bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think this is that weird. Because they did the exact same thing with Luigi's Mansion 1, as I was saying before. And while Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon is no doubt the dark horse if you're talking to very hardcore fans, like Josh Thomas, the game also sold well in excess of 6 million copies. It's not a niche game, and it reviewed well. I mean, it's a dark horse. It's a dark horse in the way that like Paper Mario fans pretend that their opinions on anything matter. Like you got to talk to a very specific group of people that think that. Yeah, which is all just to say that I think that it was the clear business decision for Nintendo of we have the engine, we have this game that was successful in 3DS. Luigi's Mansion 3 is over a 10 million unit seller. Let's continue to rise the stock of Luigi's Mansion.
And this will be the best-selling version of that game, so it'll raise the stock. Bet on Dark Moon.
We get to don't short the Dark Moon stock because it's only going up. And it also is just very, to your point about it feeling like we are in part transitioning out of the generation. This is very late 3DS energy of what can we efficiently bring to this hardware.
Definitely.
So that's definitely true. But I also think there's just more justification beyond that for Dark Moon in particular.
Yeah.
The Peach game.
Yeah.
I think this is probably our most fundamental disagreement with the Direct.
Sure. In a very tangential and not particularly important way, but still a disagreement. They announced a game starring Princess Peach in a gameplay style that the Mario series has never seen. In 15 seconds, 20 seconds, maybe, of in-game footage. And then they ended it on transforming. And what they said is, when she stands on this area of the stage, something happens.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, also Luigi's Mansion. And this is my biggest confusion about this Direct, but it is not my biggest disappointment with the Direct, because it is bizarre. I can't even fathom that they came up with this. Like, this is the out of left field Nintendo doing something totally strange decision that I hope will absolutely pay off, and hopefully this is something that's really distinct. But it's hard to tell from this first blush, because there is like 0.5 information on this game. There's more information about this game than we have about Everybody's Went to a Switch, where that was announced, but no release date. We got a release year. No name, no real trailer. They literally said, someone else, Mario's got a game, someone else is also getting a game. And then into footage of a game we've never seen without a name coming when. I think this was an awesome announcement, because what the fuck? This could be really interesting. But I also think it does no services for this game. I think this game could have been something that got a pop out of me, that was very interesting. And of course, it all is that, but it's all that with asterisk. You could have easily said this game is coming April next year, which it probably is, and given
Yeah.
it an actual trailer with a name, and it would have just been a totally normal, exciting, direct announcement. But instead, they sort of pushed it out the door. They're like, here it is. Oh nope. They like they leaned it out of the door and then they pulled it back. They're like, haha, fuck you. We'll see you later. And
Yeah.
I really didn't like that. And I don't think it does any favors to the game.
I'm just unbothered, I guess, because they just teased the game.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, when you look at it in terms of what happened, they teased the game. They showed gameplay for a project. They gave us a tentative release here, and they said this is what you have right now.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of more interested in the motivation to do that. I wonder if it's in part a knee-jerk reaction to the negativity they were getting for having nothing on the release calendar at all.
Probably.
And so by that metric, I'm happy they showed it, because now you've got something else to tag onto 2024 with Luigi's Mansion, and you would presume probably at this point Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah.
I don't have any great thoughts on how the game looks.
We didn't see that much.
Yeah.
We don't even really know what kind of game it is, which I think is what really it makes me interested in it, but also does nothing, no favors for the game being like, I'm sold. Because if I'd seen more gameplay, I could have decided, okay, yes or no, this is going to be distinct, this is going to be interesting. Conceptually, absolutely it is. But what really perplexes me about this game is I can't even like put together in my mind who's making this game.
That's
like,
exciting though.
There are so many Nintendo teams, and sometimes they had random ass projects to random ass teams. But I agree that is a good thing. It's an exciting thing, an interesting thing, both for what this game can be conceptually or pedigree of its developer wise, but also for that developer. No team has made a game like this, so whatever team is making it, it's a interesting, different direction for that team.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me interested. I'm just curious to speculate about it. So, for me, that did its job. Yeah. But I totally see where it's coming from, where it could have very easily been something more.
Yeah.
What was more was Super Mario RPG and its remake, which looks very good. I mean, I can't say that I'm over the moon about it. I haven't played Super Mario RPG. I would have much rather we got Alpha Dream back and they were making a new game.
Sure.
I get that there's a very particular nostalgia for Super Mario RPG.
Yeah.
And people are really passionate about this game and it really matters to them and it's very meaningful.
Yeah.
But I just feel like you shuttered Alpha Dream because there was no appetite for these games, which was sort of a situation with Nintendo's own creation by having them pump out largely superfluous remakes on 3DS and sold like nothing.
Yeah.
And now we're going back to the well. Now this could very easily just be a thing that Square Enix brought to Nintendo. It's like, we want to do this,
but we don't know yet.
Say no. So I don't know. I would have rather that we are moving in a new direction with Mario RPGs. However, it looks beautiful. We've got Yoko Shimomura doing the soundtrack, which is exceptional. I'm sure the game is going to be great, and I'm excited to try it because of the pedigree it has. But it doesn't really move me. I wouldn't say.
Yeah, it doesn't for me either, because this is also a game I have no nostalgia for, and frankly, it is such a niche game that I'm surprised they care. To be 100% honest, because this is not a half-assed remake. This isn't
It's their holiday game.
Kind of, sort of. Yeah, sure. I guess it is. But. It looks like it's got a lot of effort put into it. We got some really high quality cutscenes. I think that it does a really interesting thing of translating what the original vision of that simulated 3D aesthetic was on the Super Nintendo to actual 3D models with a lighting engine and everything. I think that's really cool. I think that it's also an element that seems to be maybe the most divisive part of this game, because I have been listening to quite a few reactions and of course looking on Twitter and stuff, and some people are like, this looks kind of generic. It loses the charm of the original game, which is not something I agree with because I don't have a reverence for the game, but I guess I can kind of see where they're coming from, but they're all going to fucking play it. And it's probably going to be really goddamn good. So I think this is actually the game on this list that I am... that is like the bottom of importance for me. I'd like to play it, but if I don't get around to it, I didn't get around to Super Mario RPG, and people were always telling me how good that was, so it's really no skin off my back, but it's definitely fucking weird that they're doing this. So it's cool from that angle.
I mean, it's weird in a manner speaking, though, right? Because like it is a progenitor of two very important Mario subseries in Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi. I mean, those games owe so
I just mean it's weird in terms of we've never gotten a Super Nintendo remake with this kind of production value and from what team, and especially not one as niche as this. Like, it is a strange thing to choose.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's strange in terms of the game because the game is important to Mario.
Hmm.
What I'm interested in is particularly who's making it, because if you notice on the sort of end slate screen of the trailer, Square Enix's name is very prominent. So I wonder if this is maybe happening from Square's
Sure.
side. I'm not sure if we have that answer yet.
No, I don't know.
And that might help explain why this style, why this strategy,
Sure.
why that. If
Yeah.
it's maybe coming from outside of the walls. Which might also be a necessity because of sort of legal and licensing issues that
Sure.
have prevented this game and
Yes.
prevented Geno and Mallow from appearing in other places. So it's one I'm very intrigued to know more about sort of the general conditions of.
Yeah. Definitely.
But let's make it. We made a mistake, Tucker. There's a game we haven't talked about yet that's not a Mario game. It's a WarioWare game. So we're gonna take a break from the Mario
Oh, that's
games.
true.
We're gonna talk about the Wario games, and we'll go back to the Mario
Yeah,
games.
of course. Sorry, my bad.
WarioWare Move It. How do you
Yeah.
feel about this game?
What the fuck is happening? I mean, you could have handed me the list of every series that's been on Switch, and I would have been able to tell
Yeah.
you which ones weren't going to be here, and one of those would have been WarioWare, because
Sure.
we usually don't get multiple WarioWares per system. That's only happened, I believe, once with the DS. And you're making a face?
That's not really true, because we had two on GBA
Oh, wait.
with the original
Yeah,
and
Twisted.
Twisted. Then we had arguably more than two on DS between Touched and
DIY.
DIY and Snapped, if you want to make an argument for it.
Okay, sure. That's a good
And
point.
then on Wii we had Smooth Moves, but we also had the downloadable companion to DIY, which
know that
allowed you to
existed.
play all the mini games from or micro games from DIY
Sure.
on your Wii. So there's definitely precedent for multiple WarioWare games per system.
Sure. Okay, well that sort of demolishes the entire thing. But it's you destroyed me with facts and logic, so that was important for you
Yeah.
to do. But I don't think that anyone was expecting this, especially
That's
not
A
because
great point, yeah.
this seems like it would have been the first one they would have done on the system,
Yeah.
because it's predicated on having two controllers with motion control that can be acted independently, which no WarioWare system has ever had. Of course, we had a Wii Remote and Nunchuck, but you could only move those fucking 6 inches apart, and one of them didn't really have full-fledged shit in it. So this looks creative. It looks like an interesting step forward, mixing the Switch's capabilities with what Shake It did so well. Smooth Moves. I'm getting all my Warriors. I'm getting my Warriors crossed. But this is awesome. I mean, it's just so
Yeah.
different. It's so weird. It's so unexpected, and it's coming out soon. And I don't know, Wario's got a fucking garlic Hawaiian tea on, so why not?
Yeah, so what's interesting, and I think it was Zalman on Twitter that pointed this out,
Classic guy. I love
the
this.
Japanese name of the game is something like Super Smooth Moves when you translate it more
Oh,
directly.
interesting.
And as John Cartwright was pointing out, there are a lot of even just visual similarities in terms of like how Wario is moving between microgames and like because there's always the screens in WarioWare of a Wario's running from something or something's happening as your
Yeah,
counter
yeah.
ticks up of microgames between rounds. That's very closely emulative of Smooth Moves, and obviously the motion control focus is the same too. Now, I think Smooth Moves is the best in the series.
Yeah.
We had a shit ton of fun playing
Yes,
Smooth Moves
it's a great
together.
game.
And so I'm over the moon about this, partially because, as we've talked about in the past, I thought that the Joy-Con were hung up too soon.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think having a game that is hinging entirely around them in the
Yeah.
context of WarioWare is going to be an absolute
1.5
riot.
games of those this year.
Yeah, and I'm also super glad to see things like the social modes, like
Yeah.
we saw, like a board game type situation.
Mhm,
I think
absolutely.
I think contextualizing WarioWare that way is going to be really fun.
Yeah.
Because often multiplayer in WarioWare is kind of like weird offshoot games that
Mhm.
are not
Yeah.
that interesting.
Other
frankly.
than Get It Together, which was predicated on co-op, obviously.
Right. So I think the entire package looks great. My one
does.
issue is I just don't view this as a holiday game, and
Sure.
it is releasing in November. We currently have no games announced for August or no games announced for
Mhm.
September.
Yeah.
To me, this makes sense exactly where Get It Together released, which
Mhm.
was September before. However, I'm not sure Get It Together sold that well. So to me, part of the intent of this game, and a friend of mine was saying this to me earlier today, but perhaps the intent is in part to get the series back on track.
Sure.
Because it's also a somewhat of a divisive game in terms of how far it walked away from what WarioWare was.
Yeah.
So maybe they're saying, "Hey, September didn't work for us. Let's try November.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the roots. Let's see what happens." And I think it's gonna be great. And I also think the box art's fucking bizarre and awesome, and I love it.
The Japanese box art. I don't believe we actually know what the American box art is like.
We do, and it's quite similar. The composition's a little bit different, but it's very, very similar. It's still Wario in like his ratty like a vacation
Oh,
attire,
I
I
see
guess
it.
it
I
would
see
be.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen this before. Yeah, it's very strange. He's got like
Yes.
his Wario body folds sticking out of a shirt with holes in it, and
Yes, I
his
love it.
ass is twisted in a very strange way.
He's a contortionist. I think we've learned from this
This is
box art.
crazy. Yeah, and he's also got a really weird color palette to it because the
Yeah.
logo is tropical themed. It's got green
Yeah.
with a red flower, and then none of the box art reflects that, so it's just got a weird green. What a weird goddamn game! And I hope I have a ton of fun with it. I can't wait to fucking
Yeah.
play this.
But let's end as we're winding down here with a game that might even warrant another discussion by itself.
Yeah, probably.
And that's Super Mario Brothers Wonder.
Yes.
I just think that it looks amazing.
Yeah.
There's really no way to encapsulate, in my opinion, sort of the boundless creativity that's on display here.
Yeah.
In everything from picking up a power up that looks like some sort of power up flower, but the flower powers up the level, to having Wario Land style transformations, to having new motifs and new enemies and new characters in every single shot of the trailer, and this new aesthetic and these goofy new ideas around every corner. And it's just exactly it's I never would have known that I wanted this until I saw it. And that's Nintendo's strength, and that's why I think this game is going to be genuinely brilliant.
I think this is one of the most exciting things Nintendo has done in a long time, and not because I'm a giant 2D Mario fan. I mean, I've played basically all of them, and I'm pretty flatlined on almost all of them. But this one, to me, feels like that spark of modern Nintendo that I feel quite frequently in the Switch era that you feel is sometimes lacking. But to me, this is them taking a confident step forward and reinventing one of their classic franchises. I think that when we talked about this game tangentially, sort of half-assedly, when we were talking about its sales potential a couple days ago, we were talking about how far will this push the boundaries of 2D Mario, of will it have score, will it have timer, what kind of new characters, what kind of new environments, what kind of new themes, or how complicated, how much it's going to take from what they learned from making 2 Mario Maker games in between. And the answer is a lot of changes. I mean, more changes than maybe any other singular 2D Mario game has ever made, other than, I guess, the first few on NES. But in an era when Mario has been the most stagnant that has ever been in its entire history, this is a turning point for the franchise, and I think that it is very important that they are taking the risks that they are. When you mentioned that this was a risky game at the beginning, I was like, it's 2D Mario, what the fuck, what hand me some of what you're smoking, because I want to get high, but I am high now, I guess. Because I absolutely agree with you. I think that the idea of dropping a lot of the conventions of what Mario was, of course, it is getting to the flagpole and there are mushrooms, but otherwise we didn't see any other classic power-ups. We saw Koopas, but they were pink Koopas with roller skates. We saw a roller skating Wiggler. We saw a Goomba, but very few Goombas. This is taking inspiration from all across the franchise in interesting ways and filling it with lots of new locations and background ideas and funny enemies that interact with you in different ways and level gimmicks and power-ups, as you're talking about, that really the 2D Mario sector has almost never really delved into outside of, I guess, the Mario Land games. It's remarkable that this game is as different as it is, because it would have been easier for them to not take the risks. And especially when you are looking at this on like a screenshot by screenshot, or like, a section of gameplay to section of gameplay level, there are so many ideas here, ranging from everything that I've talked about, but also including foreground and background things like Tropical Freeze or Triple Deluxe, or even there being more playable characters with different abilities that have never been playable before in a 2D Mario game. And also, on the box art, Luigi's got a little caterpillar guy hanging off his ass. And there's like these weird toad guys that have like ice cream cone heads. And there's flowers talking to you with voice acting. There's voice acting in this fucking trailer pretty consistently. It's bizarre, but that is exactly what it needed to be.
Yeah, it's this idea that, as you're saying, Tucker, a Triple Deluxe is built around the idea of the foreground and the background. In a weak example, New Super Mario Bros. U is built around the acorn mushroom as a gimmick for the core game. It seems like it's impossible to nail Super Mario Brothers Wonder down to its one idea.
Yeah.
Because it seems like it just has boundless ideas.
Well, yeah, because the one idea might be Wonder Flowers, I guess, that changed level, but also that idea is do the whole level differently and fuck things around and do things in a way you've never expected before. It's not you control Mario differently, he's got a funny ear on. This is fuck you. The whole level does differently.
Yeah, it's so much more. It's a much more. It's just such a wider approach. I can't even think of exactly the right word, but it's a
Sure.
wider approach to the design philosophy. And as I was saying in our other videos, it's the last thing I have to say for now is we're trying this idea that they deconstructed 2D Mario
Yeah.
with Super Mario Maker, and now they were reconstructing it. And when you really look at a lot of the things that were happening here, they're things that could not have happened in past Mario games. There were not transformations like this.
Yeah.
Mario couldn't become an elephant, and I fucking love Elephant Mario. I think he's so
Jesus
cute and
Christ,
he's so
good.
funny.
It's so good.
I just everything they're implementing here was impossible before.
Yeah.
And I think that's the creative space that Mario should be in, because you look at Mario and you know Mario, so Mario can become this familiar face into a game of imagination.
Yeah.
And when I look at Mario Wonder, I just see a level of imagination that I don't think we've seen from the series in a very long time.
No.
And I'm including Odyssey in that conversation.
Yeah.
I think this goes so far beyond what Nintendo's done with Mario, and I really feel generations. I think that this is going to be a seminal game for the series, and I am over the moon about it.
Yeah. And what's also interesting is that for my entire cognizant life, 2D Mario has been the same. And even before I was cognizant, I mean, New Super Mario Bros. On DS came out before I even knew what a DS was. So Mario has always existed as a thing that was once creative and is now the thing that you know what to expect from. And I've also never been watching directs and following the hype cycles and trailers and new information of a 2D Mario game, because it's been so goddamn long since that was important. Yeah. I mean, you can think about, I guess they needed to explain why there were so many coins in New Super Mario Bros. 2. That was probably done in a direct for 45 seconds. But now there is enough here that they could do, and they might do, in a Super Mario Bros. Wonder direct in and of itself. And why does the map work differently? And what is a Wonder Flower? And is this a different world that they're in? And who are these weird other characters? There's so much they can break down here that isn't just Nabbit as a character that sometimes shows up. They completely upended the baseline of Mario, and it just feels like we're I said this right before the game was revealed, and it's in our reaction video. This is an important moment. This is going to change things for the most important video game character of all time, and that's bizarre. That's a crazy thing to experience.
I hope it's not an important moment. I hope it's unimportant. I hope it's as unimportant as Sunshine was.
Sure, I see.
That we kept changing. I hope it's important on a philosophy level.
Sure, absolutely.
What was great about 64 to Sunshine to Galaxy, then to skipping Galaxy 2 to skipping 3D Land, 3D World, and Odysseys. There were different takes on the idea, right? And I don't want to see a Super Mario Wonder Bros. Wonder 2, but this is that's a conversation for 5 years from now, because what we have right now in a moment is a reaffirmation of what Mario can be, and what Mario can be is anything. So I can't wait. I think it was a wonderful direct, Tucker.
Yes.
And I think we're going to have a lot more to say on these topics in greater detail, starting with Pikmin. So
yeah.
It's a very, very bright time for Nintendo fans.
1 month from Pikmin, buddy. To the day. Goddamn.
This is how I win.
We'll see you guys when we review Pikmin. Bye.
Bye.
Alright, you thought we were done talking, but fuck you, we're doing more. Community submissions. We got a bunch from a bunch of our friends who I tagged, and they had some thoughts about Nintendo Direct. Abram, who doth thou want to start with? I wanted to, throw it back a little bit. Throw it back to old Willie Shakes.
Tucker, I love it when you throw it back.
Yep.
And the other thing I love, Tucker, is rewarding punctuality. So I think we ought to just go through these in order.
Yeah.
If that will oblige you.
Yeah.
You notice I've also changed my shirt. We could be recording this days later, for all you know.
No, not unlikely, but and I'm wearing the same shirt. We could be doing it days later.
The first thing that our friend Brendan says, it's a short one. It just says, not much that interested me. I'm editorializing here. Cringe. But I think it's cool that Nintendo are making a totally new 2D Mario. It seems like Mario fans are into it too. Now, obviously, we already shared our thoughts on Super Mario Bros. Wonder, but I think this is actually a surprisingly important note, because Super Mario Wonder seems to be pretty much universally adored by the community already.
Yeah.
There's certainly times when you see a franchise go in a different direction and it doesn't click with people right away, and there's this sort of knee-jerk negative reaction to, they're doing something different.
What they do to my blank.
Right. But what they did to our Mario, to fill in that blank, is very exciting. So I'm quite pleased that everybody's on board for this too. I
Look
think
how
that's
he
even better.
massacred my boy in a good way. Parentheses positive. Yeah, no, it definitely
Yeah.
is true. Like, you can massacre it and then build it back up, like you were saying, deconstructing Mario. Yeah, sorry, Brendan. Too bad for you, huh?
But what's he complaining? He got none of these fucking RPGs, right? There's some RPGs.
That's a
in
great
there.
point. That's a great point. We got our friend Snop Dog here, who's of course Sam. I don't know why he changed his name to Snop Dog, but he says, Wonder is pretty exciting as I realized I hadn't really played any modern 2D Mario. And the Mario RPG remake seems cool since I know that nothing about that game, but I've always wanted to play it. And yeah, obviously I'm a little bit different on my experience with modern 2D Mario, but I think it'll be a really interesting starting place for
Yeah.
new players. Something I hadn't really considered is this will be a lot of kids' first 2D Mario game because it's the first one in such a long time.
Right.
And it'll set expectations going forward in a very unique way for those first-time players who get this to grow up with. We had New Soup, NES people, Super NES people, they had their own ones, and now this is that next step, and it'll be very interesting to see how that shapes the sort of thought process of growing up Mario fans, because they'll like look back and be like, where's all the crazy shit?
Yeah, this is not really what Sam brought up, but I think an interesting component of
Also, Sam is like 4 in my mind, by the way.
I think an interesting component of of Wonder is because we talk about this sometimes in terms of 3D World, how 3D World got reevaluated because of Odyssey.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's going to be something different for the
You what? Continue. For the New Soup games? Yeah, I doubt it. To be 100% honest, because it was such a dominant era. It's not like, it was a one-off thing that didn't quite land. It's like, no, they tried it 4 times. They tried it 4 times, 5 times, 5.5 times, and it lasted for 20 years.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's... It could be true.
Well,
We have new Soup nostalgia coming out every which way in 10 years.
Well, the weird thing with the New Soup games is that they never reviewed or sold poorly.
Yeah, it's true.
It really is a modern phenomenon. I really think brought on, frankly, by a lot of like YouTubers and various people, as where frankly a lot of community sentiment comes from. But I think that's where a lot of the new Super Mario Bros. Hate came from. I really think now that we have such a new and creative and joyful and weird and elephant-filled Mario game,
Yeah.
I think there's probably a good case for looking back on those, especially the later ones, 2 and U, for what they did really well, because those are very good games, especially U with the challenge mode and various things. That's arguably the pinnacle of what New Super Mario Brothers began in 2006. So it's just an interesting thought exercise. If any sentiment changes, I don't know if it will. I don't know.
That's what I call it when you go work out, Abram. A thought exercise.
Sure.
Continue. Read the next one.
This comes from our intern, Abby. I believe we need to submit a forum soon to his school, signing off on his hours.
That's a great point, yeah.
But we'll get around to it. Abby says, one of the best directs for the Switch because of the amount of first-party games announced and the quality of them. Great time to be a Mario fan because Wonder looks super fun. My gripes would be Detective Pikachu not looking great, and as Tucker and I discussed earlier, the Peach game and Luigi Dark Moon remasters feeling out of place and should have been saved for later direct with a more proper announcement. Abby, I kind of butchered your wording there a little bit, but again, as you are the intern, you are in no position to correct me.
It's true, yeah. He holds the fate of your job in his hands. No, but yeah, he and I actually had a pretty good discussion about this as we were on voice chat afterward, alongside Franz and our friend the Ghoul, who I believe is actually typing their thoughts right now as we speak, about how they agreed with me about Peach and Dark Moon. I think that it would have been totally fine holding these games because say you don't reveal Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon Remaster today. What happens? Are you any the worse? Does anyone give a fuck? We didn't know that was coming. There wasn't an idea that was coming. And then you announce it with an actual reveal trailer in a few months in the September, fall or winter direct.
Yeah.
Great. Full reveal. Same with the Peach game. That was not something we were expecting, and there were enough other announcements to where it didn't feel like it wouldn't feel lacking if it didn't have those two.
I think that it just comes down to my disinterest in the semantics of the situation, because I think you are objectively correct.
Sure.
But I think for a lot of people like myself, I just look at that Peach game, I'm like, oh, that's a really
There
interesting
are
idea.
there are tens of you.
But what I'm saying is, there's millions of people who watch that direction and like, oh, that's an
Yeah, of
interesting
course.
concept. I wonder
Of
what's going
course,
to
of
happen
course.
there.
And I'm
So,
sure that's the prevailing sentiment. I'm just like
yeah,
a pedantic Peter.
yeah, you're a pedantic Peter. You are more in tune to how these things should be structured and
I'm
paced.
an in-tune Tucker.
You are Tucker. But what I actually wanted to hone in on was the
Thoughtful
first half.
Theodore.
The first
Sorry,
half of what
Aristotle.
Avi said there, actually, this
Sure.
notion of it being, I want to just get his wording right. One of the best directs for the Switch. Um, where do, because you're a man, because you let something slip in the first half of the discussion that I didn't comment on. You
Yeah.
were saying something about how last night you were rewatching a Nintendo Direct.
I watched a bunch of them last night. I
So
actually watched some of the earliest ones, and then I went back and watched every reaction that we have to Nintendo Directs, which actually is not that many. There's only like 3 or 4 of them. But yes,
so I'm just curious for you where you think this lands.
I think it's got to be in the upper echelon. I think
Yeah.
what I've realized looking back and where I praise and criticize certain directs is amount of first party games
Right.
revealed is very important to me. And even if not that substantial new information about previously revealed games is, that's a second tier. That's a nice B tier
Sure.
for what a direct does, in my opinion. And this was outside of Pikmin, all new information. And Pikmin also got a great trailer, so it was just
It was
all
wonderful.
big stuff across the board. I think that most of the announcements weren't like something that I immediately was like, oh my god, this is for me. I can't believe they're doing this thing that I have wanted for a long time. I haven't played Luigi's Mansion. The Peach game's out of nowhere, so that's actually a plus. I haven't played Super Mario RPG. I've played Detective Pikachu, but I don't really care about it. Mario really being the only thing that really like super jumped out at me, but I try to put that kind of bias aside, looking forward to these are new things coming and they were revealed here, and this is important for the health of the ecosystem, the future of this system, something I'm very invested in, getting something to talk about for the rest of the year and then reflect on retrospectively. I think this did what the best directs do, which is give us new information to add to the health of Nintendo.
Yeah, I think for me, it's probably, if not my favorite direct of the era, maybe my second favorite. The one that gives it the most competition, and the one that I think maybe still edges it out, is E3 2021. Because E3 2021,
but
well, Tucker, who gives a turkey? Because you gave this whole amazing breakdown about it, sort of objectively, and what it adds and contributes. But when I think back on Metroid Dread, Mario Party Superstars, WarioWare Get It Together, Advance Wars.
Oh, true.
I think that was the big 4 announcements from that.
Yeah, and Kazuya, but
and Kazuya, I don't care. Frankly, I don't care. For me, I think.
Oh, and Super Monkey Ball.
And Super Monkey Ball, although I knew about Super Monkey Ball ahead of time because I was in the media. I just think that maybe for me the variety in franchise, in addition to gameplay style, might still give it the edge for me. But as I said, it's this return to a feeling that I really appreciate. That's ephemeral. It's loopy. It's me being a goofy, fucking silly Nintendo fan.
Good.
But I like that, and I do think that on the whole, I'm probably happier with where the ecosystem is now than I was then.
Yeah, sure.
So especially when you also add in, the games that have already come out in 2023. So I think there's a bit of contextualizing to do. If I had just lined them up showcase for showcase, at the punching weight, I don't know which set of announcements I might prefer. But what I do know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that if I'm fighting for contention for my favorite direct of the past 6-ish years, it's a really amazing showcase. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
You were saying that really just Mario was there for you, but for me, all of the Pikmin stuff, I was over the moon about. Over the moon for Mario, over the moon for WarioWare. It really was an amalgamation of things I loved. I just do think that if there had been Prime 4, or if there had been something that wasn't Mario or another franchise that is erroneously considered to be part of the Mario franchise.
Yeah.
I
by some numbskulls, some fucking idiots. I don't know who they would be, but
it would have been a confident number 1 place. But I mean, tied for number 1, are you gonna really fucking complain? No, I'm not a greedy bastard.
No, and let's let's talk about or read the comment from someone who usually does complain, but I don't think he's complaining here. Phil the Pill. Oh, this classic fucker. He says, I think it shows Nintendo's strength that they can pull out a few strategic announcements that don't rely on huge development cycles or brand new hardware to get people excited. Namely, Detective Pikachu 2, Super Mario RPG Remake, Metal Gear ports, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder. The new 2D Mario shows that the fan base will accept a game with simple graphics so long as there are more effort and creativity put behind the art direction and gameplay mechanics. There were definitely stretches of the Direct where third-party material were not very exciting at all, and I think that's further evidence that the Switch is in the last year of its development. I will eat something foul if by June 2024 it rolls around without an official Switch 2 launch date announced. There's a lot to break down there, a lot of little tidbits.
There's a lot. I mean, I think Phil touches on something that we have praised Nintendo for in the past in other discussions, and I think was again on display here.
Yeah.
Their willingness to operate a little bit differently, and their willingness to find success larger than their competitors by going a completely different avenue is really exciting. And this also, there was a lot of, we've been using this term, I don't know if we came up with it or where it came from, but this term vibes-based analysis.
No, I didn't come up with that. No, I've heard other people say that.
Well, we're gonna take credit for it because I can't come up with a source. So we're just gonna it's like
source. Someone made it the fuck up.
The source is it's ours, and it's like patents, right? Nobody's renewed the patent on that phrase, so we have it now. There was a lot of talk, even just between the two of us, of like, will Nintendo reveal anything of size with this short of a window?
Yeah,
and so I believe it's November 20th for
Mario?
For Mario Wonder, is that right?
No, October 20th.
Sorry, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
I don't do numbers very well.
Yeah.
But
actually, almost every game they announced is being released within 1 month. So
yeah, that's
a month time span.
4 months away from a game that is going to sell 15 million copies.
Yeah.
Without any hesitation, we said in our discussion, could go much higher than that. But it's just a testament to the fact that Nintendo's moving different.
Yeah.
They just are, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah, and this, I think the thing that he, what most stood out to me from his comment is that this was a very exciting Direct. We were popping off constantly, especially by the end once the momentum got going.
Yeah.
And it wasn't predicated on they've got the next Smash and Mario Kart and 3D Mario and all that. They had 2D Mario, which is
bigger than all of those, arguably, other than Mario Kart.
Yeah. But it was a lot of other interesting things, and it's interesting that they're doing this, and they're different in terms of where the franchise is a base, or if the game is older or newer in gameplay style, and they built something here that felt incredibly substantial and was full of announcements that are hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to ruminate on this point more, but the more I think about it, because we did have a little bit of breaks, I had to go eat dinner, and I had to shower, I had to fucking wash my feet and things like that.
I'd beat We Love Katamari, which I did. Good for me. Everyone proud of me.
The more I think about it, Tucker, the less certain I am of like early 2024 hardware.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think many people are saying launch early 2024 hardware.
Yeah, or sorry, that was a misspeak. I'm not sure I'm confident in necessarily seeing hardware, especially soon. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I need.
Were you ever?
I need to think on it more. I just need to think on it more. But because there's definitely, as Phil is saying, this expressing. But Phil has also been on this train of Switch 2 for about the last year and a half. So yeah, Phil's pushing an agenda. Phil's an agenda pusher.
Absolutely.
But the more
I think he would stand proud by
that. I want to think about this more. But part of me looks at this lineup and is like, yeah, I see the telltale signs of us moving to the next system with the amount of ports we get. But I also just look at the amazing sales results of something like Tears of the Kingdom, and what is no doubt going to be amazing sales results for Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and wonder if this is actually the end for the hardware or not, because I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. The more I think about it, the less sure I become.
It's a conversation to have in a week's time or something like that.
Yeah, because we'll have the answer by then. It's
true. They've actually announced hardware 50% of the time you've been here.
That is true. That's true.
All right. Why don't you read Andrew's comment? Andrew, quote unquote, Mr. RPG, Orozco.
I like the concerted effort of everyone getting in the core Hold on. I like the concerted effort of getting everyone in the core Mario group a game of their own, whether a port, remake, or original title. There's something for almost everyone. As a big JRPG fan, I was glad to see the Super Mario RPG remake. I haven't played it in a long time, and I'm also looking forward to the Star Ocean 2 remake with the 2.5D HD art style HD 2D. I'm actually glad that Andrew didn't say HD 2D because I believe that that is a copyrighted term.
Yeah, and he's not allowed to say it on a Discord server. Yeah, but it's also not HD 2D. It's like HD 2D 3D.
Yeah, it's
Because they
very
got like 3D
interesting.
environments. It actually it does look very good. It's not something that either of us are even
I'm
remotely
pretty hyped
close to
for it.
playing. No, you're not. But yeah, he. I think it was interesting them saying, look, Mario's getting a game, and why don't we give one to Peach, and why don't we give one to Luigi too? And then I'm like, where's the announcement of Captain Toad 2? You mother sons of fucking bitches!
I
Come
want that
on,
so badly.
Jesus Christ!
I don't think it's going to happen.
No,
I think
it's
that
too late. It
I,
would have happened.
I think the hopes of Captain Toad 2 are long gone, which is a
Yeah,
shame. It's a big shame.
it
Also,
is.
uh, again, it makes sense why that this character didn't get a game announced yet because he's not a Mario character. But I'm still waiting on new Donkey Kong games, so
Yeah. I
clock's
thought you were gonna say
ticking.
Waluigi. I thought you were gonna say a Nabbit game.
No, those are Mario characters. So like they were eligible for announcements at that point in time.
That's a great point. Our friend John says, personally, I was pretty excited to see a new 2D Mario with a unique art style, but I was especially stoked by the remake of Super Mario RPG. It was one of my first games I remember playing on the Super Nintendo, and I'm really looking forward to revisiting it in this way. Definitely a good direct for Mario fans. As a big MGS head, the ports heading to Switch were a nice surprise too. I think they did overall a pretty good job at filling out the rest of 2023 lineup while also giving a small tease of what the next year has in store. Parentheses, Peach Game, Dark Moon Remaster.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are largely points we've hit on, but I will just take it as an opportunity again to say I was right.
Yeah.
I do think, and this is a
Oh,
conversation to have
he's
at
got
another time,
thoughts.
just another time.
Yeah,
Because Tucker, you made a very interesting document
I did.
based on the notion of determining how long Nintendo actually goes between reveals and releases.
Hmm.
I think with this new set of titles, we might want to make a discussion about this point in its entirety.
Yeah. With a little bit of new context, though. Obviously, two of the titles don't have release dates. I guess we maybe could like posit some windows if we wanted to, but also the sample size is so goddamn large at this point that like, what's two games gonna do?
Yeah, I don't think it matters. I think we add that one to the queue.
Yeah. Our friend Brogan Shatton, fuck you, I'm reading his. I already started. It says, I don't particularly love Super Mario RPG, parentheses. It's a great RPG that set a template for future Mario RPGs. I just like them more. But I'm more interested in the Wonder title and the Peach title. The Super Mario Brothers Wonder game. And the Peach game. I think them focusing on maintaining Mario as a brand and having some solid remake slash remaster content is a wise decision to maintain Switch going forward. If the console actually had like 3 to 4 more years of life alongside a more powerful companion console, where the Switch still functions as an ease of use remaster slash port machine, I'd still love it, and I hope the direction continues. Now, this is actually something very interesting. The idea, not necessarily that we're getting new hardware imminently and that these ports are a sign of that, but that the Switch for even after that system come out, whenever it comes out, could exist continuing forward as I guess sort of the 3DS did at the end of its life, but to a significantly more accessible and reasonable degree here with the Switch. It could exist as what it is largely existing as now on a title by title basis, a port machine and remasters and collections, and they have done such a good job over the course of this system's life cycle getting everything in its fucking mother on this
Yeah.
system, and today was no exception of that. And I would certainly like to see that, and it still would exist in its own sort of bubble as this ultimate historical gaming machine, and they continue to do that today.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and this is a much more popular sentiment now, but I think that myself included, we just didn't trust a vision of Nintendo Switch Online early on,
Mm-hmm.
but it's come to fruition in such a beautiful way.
Yeah.
And now across this year, it's the sentiment I expressed early in this discussion, sentiment I expressed back in February, but we've now seen Nintendo treat the idea of a remake or a remaster or just a port in so many different ways,
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
price points, different levels of importance, different release cadences, to where I think you're totally right that this machine can be sustained by kind of what Wii U was for a lot of us. The few of us that kept our Wii U's plugged in when Switch was relevant, which
Mm,
was the machine to go back to for the
yeah, yeah,
deep, catalogs of old Nintendo titles. Now you would hope that all this stuff would just naturally transition to the next machine.
yeah, yeah.
But when
Though
you,
I can see the difference being that if there is new hardware and they want to have exclusive software for that, that the cross-gen, quote
yeah,
unquote, games would be the things that are ports and remasters and collections and
yeah.
such, still available on the current Switch, and just wouldn't be fucking Mario Kart 9 or whatever that's not available on here.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, yeah, you're right, but you wouldn't have to make, it wouldn't be a cross-gen release. The ideal situation is that you just buy a new piece of hardware and Switch games are natively available off of its eShop,
True,
and you download
but
those
also
games.
contextually, it would be cross-gen if those games can be played on both, but some games can't be played on both.
No, yeah, but all I'm saying is like a PS5 situation where there are PS5
Sure.
games, but um, like when TMNT Cowabunga Collection came out,
Yeah.
and there was just a PS4 version. That's not a
Mhm.
cross-gen release. It's just that the ecosystem is thus that you can play that game on your PS5. Is what I'm saying.
Yes, but also there was a PS5 version of that game,
There,
so it was a cross-gen
no, I
release.
picked that one because there wasn't, or it might have been Shredder's Revenge. One or the other didn't get it.
Oh no, you're right. It was Shredder's Revenge because the Cowabunga Collection did get a PS5
Okay,
version, and that's like,
totally.
what the fuck? What?
Okay,
Why?
that's what I
What are you
think.
taking advantage of here?
But
How different can this possibly be?
no, exactly. But the point I'm making on the whole is like I think the problem a lot of people had with like Samus Returns and Luigi's Mansion 3DS and various
Yeah,
things was
yeah,
I don't want to sacrifice my new hardware for these
hmm
ports. The
yeah,
Switch
and
is
they
a
felt
power.
stranded.
Right. That's hopefully wouldn't be the situation where you're
Yeah,
playing your new original software, but it's still compatible with the old stuff. So when to service the still thriving Switch marketplace, Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD come to Switch in 2024, and you're playing a new hardware holiday 2024 for the sake of the example, you can just get those Switch games and play them on the new system too. I
yeah,
think that's the
absolutely.
perfect way to maintain the Switch's current trajectory and
Yes,
course.
definitely, definitely. Your turn. You
Has to
limey
be.
bastard.
Babylon's Fall finisher, who sometimes
He
goes by
still has that
Fonz.
goddamn name.
Says, I like this direct in particular because the games we did get were things I've been asking for ages. And I think all of these games round up the year surprisingly nicely, or super nicely, with quite a variety of games Nintendo's putting out this year. Always wanted a WarioWare to take over the potential of the Joy-Con, and definitely been wanting a fresh, new, beautifully animated 2D Mario for years now, and it looks like exactly what we got. Also, I can finally sleep at night knowing Detective Pikachu 2 wasn't a 5-year lie. Let's go! Also, Mario RPG looks like it's getting the perfect remake treatment, and I can't believe it's real.
Yeah. Yeah, this actually is an interesting thought that this kind of was quietly a directive of dreams
Yeah.
for certain people. I think it's probably pretty rare to have one person be dreaming about all of these games, but I think there was at least one of the games here that spoke to people in terms of, yeah, Detective Pikachu 2, for those of us who are really in tune to this, that was a game that, as I said earlier, we didn't know if it existed or if it would come out, and now it's here and it's coming soon, and so like, oh, that's like that's something I wouldn't have said a week ago. And obviously 2D Mario being the main one, but even he's right for WarioWare. Yeah, I said those exact same things about Get It Together. I'm like, damn, I wish it was like taking advantage of Switch hardware, and now this is an even more direct comparison of Odyssey and 3D World. Is like, I don't need to worry that Get It Together didn't use the hardware gimmicks of the Switch to its fullest potential, because now we've got another game that does exactly that, and Get Together can exist sort of as its own thing. The two can complement each other in really nice ways, and now you can just talk about the Switch era WarioWare games that did everything across the spectrum and tried new things that WarioWare never had.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you said it fantastically. I don't think I have much more to add.
Eric says, my thoughts on Nintendo Direct parentheses, I'll go more into detail later, and he sent a very low resolution picture of a cat with a thumbs up emoji.
And you didn't. But
He didn't go into... Yes.
If 3 people reacted with a thumbs up, I'll be 4.
Yeah. Our friend the Ghoul, who was talking to us earlier, says, thoughts on the Direct. And they did a point-by-point breakdown. But Discord user after my own heart here. Number 1, Mario 4 fans are eating good right now. Number 2, Pikmin 4 is worth the decade's wait. I'm genuinely happy with the amount of thought put into this new Pikmin game, just hoping this catapults the series to become more popular like Mario and Kirby. Number 3, Sonic Superstars will be as fun as any 2D Sonic game. It feels like a blend of Sonic Generations and Sonic the Hedgehog Episode 4. You didn't say that, Mania. I get
No.
Sonic Generations vibes from it for some reason. Number 4. As much as I love the WarioWare series, I'm praying this new WarioWare is better than the last one. I felt the last one didn't have much replay value, so I'm scared for this new one. That's interesting. Number 5. I'm a big fan of Square Enix. However, I've never touched a Dragon Quest game or a Dragon Quest Monster game. However, it looks promising. There's a lot of howevers here. Jesus Christ. Number 6. As I've said, I'm a big Square Enix fan. However, I haven't touched a Star Ocean game either, but it looks really good. Yeah. Any of these you want to zero in on?
I think that Dragon Quest Monsters game does look interesting.
Yeah.
It's sort of a wait and see thing for me. I feel like
They were using the same goddamn music from Dragon Quest 11.
I need a new monster catching game in my life.
Sure. To replace the old decrepit one that you took back in the yard and fucking shot in the head.
I've heard that actually the Monster Hunter Stories 2, the Monster Hunter 2 Stories game,
close enough.
it's very good. But I don't know. The other thing that's interesting is I've actually talked to several people today who said that they didn't like Get It Together.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that game sold especially well. And I mentioned this earlier in the discussion, so it does seem like this is a gambit to bring things back to how they should be, because how things should be is everybody loving WarioWare, because it's a brilliant series.
Yeah, so I'm looking actually at a list of WarioWare games here, ranked by how many copies they sold. And WarioWare Get Together sold 1.2, so not great.
Yeah.
Less than ARMS, which is kind of the metric in my mind.
Of course.
But also it's the third best-selling WarioWare game. Though it's also on a console with a gigantic install base.
What are the ones above
it? Touched and Smooth Moves.
Are there numbers there for those?
Both of them are over double.
Okay, yeah. So,
but also still, neither one goes over 2.5. So I'd say there's a potential that this immediately rockets into that upper echelon.
It could, yeah.
WarioWare they're micro games, especially in the sales category.
Tucker?
Thank you. I'll be here all week.
We also used to have a retort from Gallows.
Soon I'll be able to say you'll be here all week.
That is true. Gallows just says, wild to me that you don't think Get Together has much replay value. The different characters creates another dimension of variety that makes me feel it has exceptionally more replay value than previous games. I don't really feel like we need to get too in the weeds of WarioWare merit debate. I mean, we did a whole review of Get It Together.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe my opinion on Get It Together has come down a little bit in that I have spent more time with the older titles since. I mean, there was a pretty big gap in time between me playing traditional WarioWare and then getting Get It Together. And then after Get It Together, I played a lot more WarioWare. So I had a more direct one-to-one point of comparison, where it had been many years since I've been playing Gold and DIY and things before to Get It Together. And I do think that it doesn't quite have the same
je ne sais quoi.
I don't even think it's a je ne sais quoi. I think there's a simplicity to WarioWare that I think Get It Together didn't quite hit. Get It Together, what I've found, because I've played a lot of the game in co-op, is not an understandable game to people. Whereas I think you can much more easily hand somebody mega micro games, and the instruction says pluck, and you pluck a hair out of a nose, and
you press A.
There's no character control to learn. There's nothing like that.
That's true.
I think
especially some of the characters that are fucky wucky. There are a few.
I think Get It Together is a great example of the series stretching its legs, and I had a fantastic time with it because I do have that foundation in WarioWare, and it makes sense to me. But I think returning to something that has a little bit less of a barrier between the zaniness of the gameplay experience and the ridiculously of actually playing the game, I think is good. So I think this game will do a lot better. Yeah,
and it's also quite building upon the ease of control that the earliest Wii games did. The Blue Ocean Software Wii games is like, do the thing that the thing says because your body can move. Yeah. I mean, I know D-pad and A and B is not particularly complicated, but moving your body like it says on the screen is something that is more understandable to the layman like us. Our final comment comes from Walker, Al Weaver's #1 fan. Now, who is Al Weaver? Do you know?
Oh, the fictional person or a real person?
He's an actor.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
English
I don't know.
actor and writer. There's no way he means this person.
But is there more than multiple Al Weavers?
I would. Maybe it's a character from one of his fucking McJRPG games.
I don't know. This feels like a joke that originated like an English classroom, maybe.
That's certainly possible. Wait. Oh, never mind. He plays Rex in Xenoblade.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
That way more sense. Okay, all right, puzzle solved here.
We got to keep vamping though, because Reality Tim's typing. I don't think Tim's ever submitted to one of these videos, so I want to get his submission in. But you just read out what Isaac. This is Isaac, right?
No, this is Walker.
This is Walker.
Yeah,
Pete?
They both have Persona profile.
Okay, that's what I'm getting confused by.
Okay. So, Walker says, I thought it was a super cool direct. All the Mario stuff looks fire. Metal Gear coming to Switch is great. Now, I don't think we necessarily talked too much about Metal Gear earlier, but I think we mentioned that this is where we're going to play it, but I've been thinking more. It's like, yeah, this is the only way that I would really get super into these games. And this collection, when it was revealed, I was like, oh, yeah. This is how you do it. Especially because I'm not going to play them, but they have the old games as well, and that's like a huge bonus to these collections.
It is a huge bonus, although I think they're also in the HD versions on Xbox. I'm pretty sure.
Well, it's still a huge bonus because it's in the game regardless.
Yeah,
and also they can't go any farther. Like, they have all the old Metal Gear games in there. It's not like they missed some.
They don't have Ghost Babel, the GBC game.
Really? Ghost Babel?
Metal Gear Solid Ghost Babel or Babel. I don't know. I think it's Babel.
You're right, they don't. That's bizarre. I wonder why they don't.
I think it's because... Why? Like, why would you...
Snake's Revenge on fucking DOS is in there.
That's true. I don't know. But weird situation. He's still typing. It's fine. We can do a little cut if we need to make a cut. But I was thinking maybe I'll just get Metal Gear Solid 1 because I have the collection on my Xbox.
Yeah,
but also part of my issue is I start watching the cutscene and I have to be there for so long that I think that if I could play Metal Gear Solid 3 on a bus or a train or a plane or in a car, it would or even on a couch or as Tim still typing, or in a restaurant or on the toilet or in bed or in my yard or on a bicycle or a unicycle.
He could take
the sidecar motorcycle.
He stopped typing because it took too long.
He's where else can I play it? In a hammock, on a sex swing.
You ever seen one of those?
No, have you?
There we go. Perfect timing. Whoa, it almost got crazy there. Tim says, while there's so much to enjoy about this latest direct, it also feels like a showcase for a console coming to the end of its life cycle. Oh, we're bringing it back to that old chestnut. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon and WarioWare announcements felt like they were scraping the bottom of the barrel. Super Mario Bros. Wonder looks incredible and is exactly the direction that 2D Mario needs to be going. Lack of Tears of the Kingdom DLC and Metroid is intriguing. I'm starting to agree with those that say that these are intended for Nintendo's next console. I haven't heard the idea of Tears of the Kingdom DLC being for the next system. Well, fucking hot diggity, I haven't.
Because what people have been saying is that Nintendo will release an updated version of Tears of the Kingdom for new hardware. I just don't think that makes any sense. No, frankly.
You know what the dream is, Abram?
Yeah.
No DLC.
I think there's actually something interesting about Tears of the Kingdom I was thinking about today, because we got the prices for all of these games, and none of them are $70. Two of them actually are $50. WarioWare and Pokemon Tag Pichu are $50. So Tears of the Kingdom is an interesting situation in which they clearly seem to be almost compensating for the extra year of development by making the game $10 more. And it makes me wonder if...
Like everybody's one to Switch.
It makes me wonder if so much work went into that base game that they just didn't do DLC. I think it's possible.
Oh, that'd be very interesting, yeah.
I'm not sure. It's at the same time, though, the Amiibo aren't coming till holiday. I don't think it's too hard to imagine that we get a DLC trailer in a couple months and the first wave comes for holiday. And I don't know. If I was a betting man, I would say that there's probably Tears of the Kingdom DLC coming, but I also
a safe bet.
I also don't think it's impossible that, like I said, they gave everything they had to that base game.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting.
Metroid Prime.
Great.
Yeah. Well, I will say that I don't know if I'll go back to Chase Kingdom when I finish it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm fine with that. Also, the Breath of the Wild DLC wasn't great, I have to say.
Yeah.
Um,
Never played it. I bought it though. That was a sad moment in my life. I've bought the DLC 3 times and never played any of it.
One day, Tucker, the value for you of the bit is going to end, and then you're going to have to actually sit down.
Impossible.
No, because here's the thing. It's become a bit for you. I think it has been. I think everybody knows it's become a bit. Now, I'm not.
Oh yeah, that was a bit.
I'm
a living bit.
What I'm saying is a point's going to come when the bit's going to get tiresome, and you're going to sit down. You're going to have to actually ask yourself if you actually want to play DLC, or if you will because you want to. When the bit dies, we could find the answer to this question, and maybe not in your heart, but maybe in your gut or your balls or something.
Check in 30 years.
Last thing I want to just mention here is Metroid Prime 4 absence.
Yeah,
the game is a Switch game. I just don't understand the idea that it's not a Switch game because we haven't seen it yet. That just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. What do you think about this?
No, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I think that's been in development within that engine for so long, or within the architecture of the Switch itself, that it would be more work to move it. But also that maybe that's a point in favor of the fact that we haven't seen this game yet. But I think it kind of makes sense as an end cap piece to the system's life cycle. So I think it will be released around the launch of the next system, whether that is 4 months before as the Switch's last big Switch-only game, or if it ends up being an early game for the next system. I just don't see it coming out 18 months before the next system comes out, because we're quickly reaching that time period.
Allegedly. Because here's this other thing I'm thinking about, Tucker. Just imagine this for a second. Imagine the year is 2019, and we got this slate of games. Would that feel like the end of a console's life cycle to you? What I'm saying is, if you just looked at if you just looked at the games coming this year, you just looked at the games. You didn't look at the year. You just looked at the list of games.
Of course. Yeah.
I wouldn't see that as the last year of console cycle.
No. So, true. Though I know it's hard to believe, but context may just matter.
No, context absolutely does matter, but I just think that the strength of this software, especially when you put it up against, let's just imagine this is the last full year of Switch, when you put it up against 3DS, when you put it up against Wii U, even when you put it up against Skyward Sword, or the last year Wii, which had Skyward Sword, but what else did it really have? I actually would do a little bit more research into that point, because I don't remember off the top of my head. But I just feel like there's more time. I think there's more time for Metroid Prime 4. I think that people are reaching these conclusions because we haven't seen it, and they're being maybe a little impatient on this point. A little impatient. I'm sensing a little bit of impatience.
Sure.
Because you're right. It's a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of work to move the game. And would you rather gamble this game on a new piece of hardware that might not have a huge install base yet, or just throw it on Switch where the game's been in development for its architecture for fucking God knows how long now, and have a huge and active group of people ready to munch it up because other Metroid games are still great on the hardware. So, drop my pen. True. I don't know. I think Prime 4 is a Wii U game. I don't.
Do you always keep a handful of splooge handy?
No.
Can I give you a splooge handy?
Well, see, the situation is because I don't keep cum on hand, I have to quickly jerk off whenever I check the wind direction.
Yeah, that's a great point. Fastest nut in the wind.
No, it takes me a while. Sometimes the wind directions change by the time I can actually test it.
It's not particularly useful. Okay.